Good morning, all you beautiful people of the internet. My name is Mac.
And I just got my wisdom teeth removed.
And this is Cam. And this is the Mission Listen podcast. Today, we have on one of my favorite people in the world, Mr. David Yoon. Everybody give it up.
Hey, go.
But before we get started, we are actually gonna have to do our goof. We're not actually picking from the jar today. Had a little mix up. They're kind of OD, so yeah, OD again. So we're gonna do a different goof regarding this and this. So
This is
should be fun.
And Benkei's not here today, but this is some oyster flavored sauce.
Yeah.
And we're gonna be putting it in some interesting places.
Yeah, and then sucking it out with this. Okay. Yeah.
Let's get it started.
I would suck at any but
So, we chose David here because he's the only one that showered this morning, and our belly buttons are.
He has a pretty
nasty,
clean belly button. I'm not gonna lie.
And I mean, it's just he's got a body for it. We got that.
That's not true.
Nah, he's being modest.
Alright, let's get this started.
Oh.
Again, I apologize to my parents
I'm scared.
when they watch this, but
And they go down the hatch.
Oh, it's so cold. Holy shit.
you got it, or you want me to go first?
Keep the hefty delicious. It's so cold. It's so cold.
Go get that.
Oh, this is gonna feel so weird.
Oh, do you have to get it all? Nah, probably. You know.
Do I have to get it all? What's the rule?
You got it.
you got
Go
it.
ahead. Go ahead. Oh my goodness.
Oh. Dude, oh.
Yeah.
It's like kind of like.
Not good. Don't recommend.
Oh.
0 out of 10.
And we're back. Yeah, we just did that. It was kind of pleasant, actually.
Oyster sauce is not good.
It was pleasant. Cam, you thought it was pleasant, right?
Yeah.
I felt like a massage in my belly button.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like a massaging, like nice, relaxing thing. You should do it with your friends, family, go on a picnic.
There's gonna be oyster sauce in your belly button for a long time now. I feel like deep in those cracks.
Yeah.
And there's like cracks in your belly button, so it like gets in there, nasty stuff.
Yeah.
All right, so we have David on here, as I said before. David, one of my favorite people. So to get us started off, just tell us a little bit about your semester. How was UVA?
So I think at first transitioning UVA was very difficult for me personally, just because, like I didn't want to get into like frat life or like I was trying not to party as much. Just trying to like keep myself on track. And so I wasn't in high school. I felt like I reached out to a lot of people and I tried to like be open and like reach out and like try to like just like make friends wherever I go.
Yeah, I think a lot of people saw you as that person.
But in college, I was like pretty much like the complete opposite, where like I would only like, if people came to me, obviously I talked to them.
Where were you living?
So I lived in old dorms. So we have like old dorms and new dorms.
Okay.
And I lived in old dorms where, so Jeffrey's my roommate.
Oh.
And so I was really close to people in my hall, just because like we had like Fortnite in our room and like all this other stuff where people just came into our room. Like we were like the like.
Did you have like an open door kind of?
Yeah. We were definitely open door, especially because there's no AC or anything. So we just like,
Isn't it weird how some people keep their doors closed?
Yeah, no, like, I find that weird,
especially as freshmen. Come on.
But for me, like, I think first semester is very tough for me. Just trying to like live on my own and like I have to wake up and be like, okay, what should I eat?
You were in
today,
a single?
No, I live with Jeffrey.
Okay, yeah, right.
What do you think like caused that? Like, cause you said you were super open in high school, like trying to like sort of make connections with everybody.
Yeah.
And like college, like it's this place to literally make connections. Like
Right.
you're at UVA, like these are the people who are gonna be like CEOs. These are the people who are gonna do big things. Like, what do you think caused you to like have that kind of closed off personality at first, at least?
Well, for me, like, I really like in high school, I didn't really think about my future that much, and like for me, I kind of like BS my way through high school, if I'm being honest. Like, yeah, like I did pretty well in school, but like, excuse me, sorry. But like I did pretty well in high school, but it was mostly just like me just like relying on my like natural like, hey, like I understand math pretty quick, or like I understand this pretty quickly, and, but like I never really like took the time to like go through learn material like really well, and I mostly just like focused on like reaching out to people, like playing sports, stuff like that, like doing what a normal high school kid does, right? But in college, I was like, okay, like I need to like strap down and
Yeah.
like, you know, try to like figure myself out, figure out who I am. Because if I'm being honest, like most people in high school, I feel like they don't like, you know, learn who they really are until like they get into college or they go into the real world and like, you know, because like in those situations, like in high school, like you're kind of like told what to do like throughout your entire life.
Yeah.
Like once you like get out into the real world, like you know, like there's nobody that's like looking over you. No one cares about what you do. You know? It's kind of like you do it for yourself.
And like, something interesting too, like I thought about, and I had a conversation with Kareem actually about like because we were talking about like Josh, how he goes to Princeton and like how the classes are like extremely hard and everything like that. And I forget, maybe Kareem or someone else who was telling me like basically at Harvard, it's like not the opposite, but the classes are a lot easier at Harvard. And like I think like Harvard just kind of focuses more on like making connections and like building the community and like being in organizations and stuff like that. And I know at UVA, like you've told us earlier, like your classes are extremely hard. Do you think college is more about like the rigorousness of the actual curriculum and the technical skills you learn, or do you think it's more about like the connections you make and like what like the networking and organizations you join? Like, what do you think is more important for your future?
And even like side projects, you know, outside of stuff school.
Yeah, like what we're doing right now.
I think a lot of it depends on like obviously the actual school you go to, but for me, I honestly think that it boils down to like where you came from and the person you're trying to be personally. Because like for example, like Josh thinks Princeton's really hard, right? And like I know for a fact that Princeton's hard, but like for someone who like challenges themselves really hard in high school, they may find Princeton not to be as hard as he does, right? And versus like someone that goes to Harvard, like Harvard, I know for a fact that Harvard has easier classes than Princeton per se,
right? But
there may be people who go to Harvard and they're like, wow, like this is incredibly difficult. You know?
Yeah.
And it's the same with like any other school you go to, and like you'll find people who they'll be challenging themselves a lot more academically than other people may. And I think it's just all it boils down to like the kind of person you want to be. Like, do you want to go out and reach out to other people? Like, do you want to, you know, or do you want to like go sit down in your room and like, you know, learn how to code or like learn how to do these like small things?
And which type of person like would you say like you are?
I think I try to balance myself, but I would say I'm definitely at this point in my time like trying to be someone that's like does their own thing and like tries to figure out like how to do new things, especially because in this day and age, I think with computer science specifically, because it's such a like
it's a comp sci major, by the way.
Oh yeah, I'm a computer science major, but I think that in this day and age, like comp sci is a really oversaturated like major where everyone's like, okay, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna like, you know, go into comp sci, see what happens, you know.
Right.
And there's a lot of people who aren't really passionate about the topic. They just kind of like, it's like a safe market because there's just so much like opportunity there, and so they feel like this is like the safest way for me to go to college and get like a decent job.
Yeah. And
because it's like that, it's like I feel like because like I personally like really want to do computer science. I think of something like I have a genuine interest in, right? And in order to like I guess distinguish myself or feel like, you know, like I'm like finding a like purpose or like, you know, finding a sense of worth in what I'm doing. Like I need to like do more rather than just like, you know, like do what's in front of me. I need to like reach out, find different things to do.
So like what kind of are you trying to do any side projects regarding like is that even something that can be done?
Yeah.
With your experience and your skill level?
I think that's like the most exciting thing about college is like now that like I'm like learning things that like I want to learn, I feel like there are things that I'm learning now that I like know that happen in the real world. And like when people talk about computer science, like adults and stuff, or like even in TV shows, like I'm like, wow, like I understand everything that like they're talking about. It's like a really cool feeling. And so for me personally, I'm learning like mobile app development right now. And so the language I believe is called Swift. And for me,
what's mobile app development?
Is that like a coding language or something?
So basically Swift is like the iOS like programming language that like Apple made. And basically like I would say so like there's like basic programming languages like Java, like C++, Python. Right. But Swift is like it stems from like those, and they use like those frameworks to like create like, you know, their own thing where it translates to like mobile apps.
They're programming and everything.
And so
like you're kind of like learning how to make apps and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Dang.
And so like through that, I'm hoping eventually like I'm more into like the creative side, right? Rather than like, you know, into like security or like, you know, like IT. I find like that stuff's just like, you know, like it's very limited in what you can do. And so eventually like, I want to get to the point where like, hey, like I have this idea and I want to have the skills just to be able to like whip it out, you know?
Dang.
And obviously I'm like still like way early in the process of like doing that, but I'm hoping like one day that I'm financially stable enough and like, you know, I have like the tools where I can just be like, freelance or like do my own thing and like
So is coding like the majority of what you're doing in classes and that, or?
Currently, yes, mostly because most of my classes were introductory.
Okay.
I think this past semester was probably like my hardest semester, like or supposed to be my hardest semester at UVA.
Right.
And it's because like the class I took this semester, it's kind of like the weed out class where you learn like, okay, computer science isn't just about coding. It's like there's all these other things to it that you should know, and like that's where people figure out like, hey, should I really do computer science or not? And like for me, like I really enjoyed it. So
Right.
And, you want to ask it?
Nah, you can go ahead.
All right. So then you mentioned earlier like you kind of want to freelance at some point, or like create your own app or create your own sort of platform.
Mm-hmm.
I like to ask a question to like CS majors and stuff. Would you ever consider going out to Silicon Valley?
Yes, 100%.
Actually.
Mm-hmm. Mostly just because like I'm like very open to like trying new things, right? And like I think the Silicon Valley culture is very like it's very demanding, very pushing, even like negative in some aspects. But I think that every person like should go through something where it's like excruciating pressure, excruciating pain. Like for some people it's like sports, or like for other people it may be like academic studies. But like for me, I feel like if I really want to like improve as a person, like I want to go through something like that where like
yourself.
Where like wow, like this is like me doing like my best work, or like this is me pushing myself to my limits.
What are they still doing? What are they still doing in Silicon Valley? Like before, it was like the huge boom of like creating.
It's still that. Like there's a bunch of venture capitalists, like all these people. Like,
really? Yeah. I always think of it just like this huge investment pool.
It is.
And
it's mostly nowadays. A lot of it has to do with like new ideas, like startups. And the reason why it isn't as big anymore is because like they're starting to expand from Silicon Valley into like LA, and even here like like Amazon's coming here.
Oh,
and, like, Apple's like looking to come here, and so like it's not just Silicon Valley anymore, which is why like the quote unquote hype isn't like as like open as it is, but like it's still like developing like a lot, obviously, like rapid development. And like I think the most interesting thing is like people will like do whatever it takes to like like get to the top. And like I was reading articles like where people do like microdoses of LSD and stuff just to like spark creativity. And like, I think that's like insane.
Yeah.
But
I think that's dope. Like how far people will go too.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, do you guys have anything that'll like spark your own creativity? Like, is it like, I feel like there's some certain things. Like sometimes I meditate. Like I do certain things to like just like get my creative mind pumping. Like when you're trying to like write, or like when you're trying to like design something. Like, do you guys do certain things?
I like to go for runs. I tried out the walking meditation stuff, and it was a little harder because like stillness is a lot easier to like clear your mind and everything. But when you're walking and you're just kind of, your mind is almost moving while it's staying still at the same time. If you know what I mean. It's a little hard to understand, but that always gets me creative. And also I got like a journal that I like write down my stuff. What I did, I used to always make these Twitter pages where I would like rant and just like, I wouldn't follow anybody. I would have nobody follow me. It would just be like a way to like vent all my stuff out. And I was like, yo, that's kind of stupid because like social media in essence is to like share stuff. So I just threw it all away and I got myself a sketchbook. I feel like it's been helping me with that.
Do you guys think like thoughts are supposed to be shared? Like, like you having that Twitter page, like, do you think someone like deserves to know like your thought, or like it'll help you in some certain way? Like, do you feel like thoughts?
I've actually been thinking about this a lot recently, like whether it's good to be like emotionally open and like everything like that, because I feel like you almost lose your sense of self when you don't have any like secrets and you don't like keep your emotions in.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
Just to like add on to that, I would say like I remember I was talking, so like I don't know if you guys remember, but like junior and senior year I would go to like Starbucks like literally all the time, and to the point where like I like knew the people there, like the people that are like regulars, and so there's this old guy I was talking to. His name's like Steve, right? And then he's the one, he told me to buy a journal to like, not just like write down my thoughts, but also just to write down what's happening, just so like you can look back on it and be like, wow, like I remember this happening, I remember how I felt, And like I even feel
organization.
Organization. And he was also telling me that like he thinks that some thoughts like are meant to be to yourself, because like if you share them to the world, like they're exposed to someone else's opinions, like they can be like, tarnished or like they like exposed, and there are like some things that you should really just keep to yourself and like be like, okay, like this is a thought from my mind and I get to keep it to myself.
I feel like a lot of people struggle with that, with like what to share, what not to share, because social media has kind of just created this thing where it's like share everything, share it all, share it all, share it all, like fully integrate yourself into this, and it's like kind of created like an anxiety because you don't know what to put out there and you don't know like what to keep to yourself. So I feel
like some people some people overshare and some people undershare. Like I'm definitely someone in the category of undersharing, and like I'm trying to like I don't know, get myself to open up to people more emotionally, just because I feel like transparency is something that just like should be so valued among like relationships and everything like that. And like I value it a lot, but like sometimes I don't really practice my belief with others, which is kind of messed up. But
to change the subject, do you have any electives or like how important do you feel like electives are in? Are you doing? First of all, are you in any, or did you do any your freshman year?
Yeah, I did. So I think that like electives are really good in terms of like identifying exactly what you want to do. Like for example, like the biggest, the most famous story is like Steve Jobs, where he dropped out of college, but he took like classes on design or like calligraphy, and that's how like how the iPhone was designed, how like all like the fonts are designed, right?
Yeah.
And like that's like heavily influenced on the electives he took, and for some people that may that may turn them off because like they just want to like learn how to like do certain things, or they want to just go to security or like something like that. But for me, because like for someone like me where I don't know exactly what I want to do, but I know my passions, I think that like electives for me are very helpful. Like for example, like I took like a sociology class, and sociology in itself, like I don't know if like I agree with like its importance per se, but I think it's important to understand like how things work, like how humans work, like why we are interacting in certain ways. And I think for me, like taking these kind of classes, not only does it give me like a break from like just like math or CS or stuff like that, but it also like lets me into like a new way of thinking, and it encouraged me to do other things like such as like write or like read more like.
And you can totally like input all these things into your CS.
No,
like,
for sure.
Like with the Apple example, excuse me. Like he was taking art classes, right? Like as you said, and before that, like computers had really no artistic like integrity like that. Like it wasn't really like an artsy thing. And after the Macintosh, like fonts were big, and like making your computer almost like a coloring book, and like that all came up from having like electives per se.
And for me, like, so obviously AI is getting really big now, and a lot of computer science like majors, they also go into like cog-sci or something like that, where you study like how like humans like interact with like or how they react to certain things, and like it's really important for AI because AI is essentially taking what a human does and like taking it to another level. You know what I mean?
Right.
And in order to do that, you gotta understand like how we work before you like able to do that, right?
That's so true. Wow.
And so I think that's like a really cool thing that they're doing now. I remember one of the programs I was looking into. It's like a combined computer science and cog-sci major, which like goes into like artificial intelligence, and I think like that's like the biggest example of how like like taking other classes isn't like a bad thing at all, and it should be encouraging.
Are you scared of AI?
No, not at all.
Wait, I'm a little scared of AI.
So I'm still a little confused because I was talking with Green about this too. Actually, is like, what's the difference between AI and like, because like people say like, oh yeah, like the computer you play against in like video games and stuff is AI, and like Green was basically saying like, yo, that's like not really AI. It's like something different. Like, what exactly is it? Like, how would you define it?
Well, right now, the AI that had like is troubling everybody is like the HomePods. Like the Alexas and like
that's AI.
Yeah, that's all AI. Like HomePods, Alexas, I don't know, Samsung has them, whatever. Those are all like people that can respond back to you just from you talking to it. Once there's like enough imputation into that that machine to where they can have like fluid conversations with you, there's like a fear that they'll like get smart enough to where they're like above us. I don't really know if it's I'm delivering this correctly. But I don't know. Elon Musk is really scared of it because he was talking about a singularity. I feel like where basically they just get smarter than us and they start over self-replicating. Yeah. And then but it's crazy because all these companies are going to be like the owners of these AI computations. Like Amazon's gonna own it, Google's gonna own it. Yeah. Apple's gonna own it. Like these are all the creators of these AI. It's not gonna be like some weird sci-fi program. You know what I'm saying?
And the craziest thing is like, in order to stay competitive as a company, like that's what you have to do. It's like because like there are all these like new methods. Like essentially, the purpose of AI is to like like better like human life in a way, right? And like if you look in like any sort of like occupation or like any sort of industry, like they're using AI in like some sort of way. Like for like even in like physical therapy, they'll do AI to see like, okay, if I train my person this way, like does it help him this much, or like like see like how like certain training like affects a person's like results.
What do you think is like the coolest thing that people are working on in terms of AI? Like the coolest, I don't know, like the biggest, the capacity it has, like the most amazing thing it has within its capacity. Like you personally think.
Well, eventually they're gonna like take the home pods and they're gonna like turn them into like animatrons and like home assistants, like moving around and stuff. I always think of iRobot for some reason, like the Will Smith movie, but
I like the Jetsons.
They're gonna. I don't think I've ever seen the Jetsons. Whatever. So. Like these little disc home pod thingies are eventually going to turn into like human beings or human looking things, animatrons. So they're going to be walking around and they're going to be like answering your questions, which is the scary part because they're going to have like kind of control a little bit.
Yeah, Josh was telling me he's like, so he just got an internship in China for the summer, and the company that he's working for, it's like a startup, and they came up with like an algorithm or like a method where like a AI can respond like. And its accuracy is like 97%, like more, like better than like the other ones, right? Ugh. And it's just like scary to think that like like you ever watch like Her, like the movie?
Oh no, I haven't.
I really gotta watch that.
Yeah, but basically,
he falls in love with his phone.
Yeah, pretty much. And like the phone's like an AI system, like an operating system, right? And it's weird because like it shares like its emotions like with a guy, and it gets like weird to the point where like they have like sex or whatever. But like it's just weird to think that like when I watch that movie, like it doesn't seem so far fetched. You know what I mean? Like it seems like that could be like a possibility in the future, and like to me, that's like what's scary to me is like all these like in the movie industry they like to like entertain the idea of like all these like crazy things happening, in the future, and nowadays like it doesn't seem like so far off like that it like used to,
because these responses are getting so fluid. Like they're getting more and more fluid to where you can develop a connection with the technology like on a human level, and that's the terrifying thing.
Is it so terrifying? Like what? So like I know obviously it seems like very like impersonal, but like I feel like I don't know, like as we start to go to that point, like and like more generations come, like it'll be kind of more normalized. What like about it makes it seem so scary? But I know we have to go for intermission, so we can probably answer this question after intermission. But
all right, we're gonna take a quick break and we're back. Now, we were talking a little bit about AI before, but I want to keep things moving, talk about some new stuff. So a question that I did have for you, so whenever we talk, you always stress to me that you're a religious guy. And I wanted to ask, like in this progressive world, like we were talking about AI, like that's kind of part of it, just like the, believing in science and stuff. How do you find like the balance between being a Christian and like living in this kind of progressive liberal world?
Well, I think there's a lot of aspects that go behind it. But for me, like just to like start off, like to clarify, so I'm part of like the Presbyterian denomination of Christianity, and so I kind of grew up in the church, as in like my parents are Christian, and so like like knowing Jesus or like knowing God is like kind of like what I've like that was like what I was born into. But for me, I didn't really like believe in it for a long time. I just thought like I just like had it as like this is like what it is. Like it's kind of like math. Like like math is there. Like that's what it is, right? But for me, the more I got into like my own personal life, and like the more, so for example, like in like middle school or high school, like when I started like making friends and like meeting new people, I found that like my strongest relationships, like they arise like when I like tried to like stay to my beliefs. Like so because like I think that like in a Christian community they encourage like being open, like being like kind-hearted, and like most religions are like that, right? Like you want to
they stress ethics and morals before
and
anything else.
I found that like I found the most like comfort in myself, and I like felt the most like secure in myself when I would like stress those beliefs onto myself, and I'd like pour that out to other people. And the reason why I was so open in high school, or like I mentioned before, was because in my church, like they encouraged me to like reach out to more people and like like try to be open-hearted. Yeah, because
that went into it.
Yeah, mostly because I felt like the church, like I struggled a lot because those people, they weren't really like my kind of people, because like I was so like carefree and like, you know, what I say and like what I do. Like the church isn't really like that, you know, like you have to kind of like watch what you say. You can't just like curse whatever you want. Like, and so because like that wasn't like where I found like my people, they were like, oh, like maybe like you can find this in like another like sort of group or like another sort of people. And so like when I started playing soccer, you know, I started like being more open. Like when I started like in middle school, even high school, like in my classrooms or like, you know, in the clubs I was in. And through that, like I found that even though like, yeah, I gained more friends, like it, like for me that didn't matter. For me it was the fact that, you know, people looked at me and they saw someone who like,
it was open, very,
and like they're like, like I try to be kind to people, you know, like when someone like needed help, like I try to be there for them always, because like that's what like being in like a Christian household, that's what like it instilled in me. And that's like the one thing that I try to like stress when like someone like asks me on religion. It's like, for me it's not about the fact that, hey, like look, I'm Christian, like that doesn't mean like I'm like any better than anyone else, you know what I mean? Or like if someone else like is Muslim, like doesn't mean like like they're believing the wrong thing. Like I don't even like necessarily agree with that. It's just mostly like.
So going off that, like how do you feel about those Christians who aren't open, who do have those, like, you know, the type of people who you're pro life, you know, those kind of people, like gays or, you know, spawn of Satan. How do you feel about those kinds of people? Have you ever had to deal with them? Yeah,
so I think that like nowadays, especially with like social media and all this stuff that like arises, like information gets out so quick, right? But it also allows like more people to be corrupt. It allows like wrong information to come out. Like for example, like you know, like even like the presidential election where like the Russians like hacking, like it wasn't that they were like doing anything explicitly that was bad, but it was like they were leaking all these things on Facebook, or like they would like lean people the wrong way, and they like skew information the wrong way so that people would believe like the wrong things, you know. And that's like a huge problem like nowadays that, you know, I can get into later, but like just to like get back to the point, like the scary thing about the like Christian community and like religion in general is that there's so many different beliefs out there, and there's so many people who like they have a platform now to like, you know, say like what they believe in, and because of that, because of that, like people like they find like the wrong things, you know, to believe in, and like they'll view Christianity based on like what they hear in this podcast or what they hear on like social media, and because of that, it's like for me, it's like, hey, like I know that's not right, or like I know that's not what I believe, but at the same time, like if I go into that, then I'm contributing to that pretty much, because those people don't believe in the same things that I do, you know. And for me, I think the most important thing is like looking through my social circle, looking through my own self, and like kind of like self-checking myself and thinking, hey, like what can I do for myself that like that will change like what other people believe in, or like, you know, because like the world is so big, and like I can't like change like everything, you know. I can't make everyone believe the same things that I can, but it's like I know that I can affect my social circle. I can affect gently. I can affect the little things that are around me, and I think that's like what most.
So you don't shun. You know, you try to stay away from shunning like the more conservative.
Yeah, because like that's like the whole essence of Christianity is like saying, hey, like we should accept any person, like, you know, regardless of how messed up they are, regardless of how much they like messed up in their previous life. Like they're who they are, and we should accept that, but like we should also encourage like some sort of change, like say, hey, this is what we believe in, and like we want you to believe in that too, you know.
Okay.
So like I feel like too, like you mentioned like how like the church encourages like openness and everything like that. Do you feel like, I don't know, you have like a responsibility based, because I know you have like a super like positive outlook on life, and like I know you have positive impact on me, positive impact on the people around you in high school too. Do you feel like on your daily life and a daily basis you have to hold yourself to a high standard of like having that positive impact on every single person you talk to, like being like happy per se, like when you talk to a cashier at a grocery store, like trying to have that positive impact everywhere you go, and like if that is the case, like how do you keep up the energies to do so, and like to have that positive attitude 24/7?
Well, I think that like I don't know if you guys know Mason John, but so he's very like involved in church, like a lot more than I am, and so like him and I both believe that the best like evangelizing in this day and age is kind of like a dead art, as in like, you know, someone who like
evangelizing,
as in like spreading the word, or like, you know, spreading the religion, right? It's like kind of like it's difficult because like people shun, like as you said, people shun people who are like, hey, like believe in this, blah blah blah. You know? Like if you go on the street and someone's like going, oh, like Jesus Christ died for you, like people, like everyone's like, oh, okay, well, he's one of those guys, you know.
But isn't spreading the gospel one of the biggest
Right?
parts
Yeah,
of?
it is.
So
but I think that
that's becoming increasingly
for me,
difficult.
because like I was born in like the 2000s, where like everything's just completely different. Right? There's social media, there's all these different things. For me, I think that like when people who aren't Christian, they look at me, they see someone who's Christian, right? Or like at least like people who know me, they know that, you know, like I have some sort of like Christian beliefs, and because of that, I believe that the way I act like is a reflection of the Christian community, like for like you and like Cam and like all these other people, right? Like, because you didn't I mean, I wouldn't know, but I'm guessing most people, they don't like know much about like, you know, the Bible or like, you know, the history behind Christianity, stuff like that. But like they do know that I am someone who's Christian and I believe in those things, and I believe that the way I act
So
is
they
like
base their
I'm like an
perception of it.
advertisement for like
Mhm.
you know, Christianity pretty much.
For sure.
And so for me, like that's like one way I like think about it, but I don't really think about how like in an interaction I don't go, oh, like I have to do this because I don't want them to see this, you know, like I like that doesn't really matter to me. But I think the most important thing is like, hey, like what am I like, how am I feeling like genuinely about myself, or like how about this person? And it's like, if I'm feeling like I don't like this person, like that, then that's not okay, because then the way I react is gonna be fake, or it's like it's gonna be like yeah, I'm not gonna, you know, show affection.
So with people you don't like, do you show like negativity towards them, or do you or do you try to? Because that's, I mean, it's a fair.
Yeah.
It's a
No,
fair
it's fair.
thing to-
But like at the end of the day, like you're not gonna like everyone, right? But everyone has a story, everyone has their own purpose, everyone has something that you don't know, right? And for me, like that's how I view my life, is like, even though like this person may have come from a different situation where it's more unfortunate, they like were exposed to things that I wasn't. And like for me, like I want to learn those kind of things, and those kind of like I want to interact with them and figure out like things that like I don't know, you know? Because like as a person, like we're all limited. Like Elon Musk, he may be like he may own everything, like he may be a god, but like he doesn't know what Nova's like. Like he doesn't know, like, you know, there's a lot of things that he doesn't know, you know.
Mhm.
And if you think about it in that way, like there's no one person that's better than like anyone else if you think about it. Because like at the end of the day, we're all humans, we're all gonna die, we're all susceptible to the same thing. Like if I shot Elon Musk, he would die. If I shot you, you would die too, you know? Like we're all like prone to the same things like as human beings. And for me, like the reason why like I choose to believe in Christianity, or like even like religion in general, is like I find like a greater purpose for myself, you know. It's not just like, hey, there's this world and I live in it. I shouldn't, like, I don't believe that like I need to like make money or do all this like other stuff that like is really like emphasizing pop culture in order to like fulfill like,
and we talk about like empathy a lot just like in our conversations. Do you feel like empathy has like a sharp decline in like past years, like the empathy that you're basically, you know, describing? And if so, why do you think that empathy has hit a decline?
I think that I can't really, I mean, that's like a very like a broad topic, and so obviously I can't speak for everyone,
right?
But in my personal experience, I feel like our culture, specifically in Nova and America in general, is like, it's very focused on ourselves, where it's like it's all about me, like when we watch a movie, we want to be Denzel Washington, or we want to be like that badass like on the screen, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, we're just like the extra. We're just like the nobody who if I point a gun at you, you're gonna run away. You know, like we're like those kind of people, right?
Right. You're a side story to everybody.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But because like we live in a culture where it's all about us, and it's like when we grow up, like for example, I remember I was watching this like comedian, and he was like, oh, like in kindergarten, the teacher was like, oh, I'm a snowflake. Are you guys all snowflakes? And he was like, oh, I'm a little snowflake, I guess.
Yeah.
And like it's all about us, you know.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, it's like we think that if someone doesn't believe the same things that we do, it's like they're wrong.
It's almost like an attack on our, you know, on our person.
Personal.
And that's why I think empathy like is like lacking like per se in today's culture.
Yeah.
But like you'll find places where it's like it's not like that, you know.
Yeah. I have another question. So like a little bit semi off topic, but so I just watched this movie called First Reformed, and it basically like dove into like the church. Like the main character was Ethan Hawke, and he like plays a priest and everything like that, and he like gets approached by this environmentalist, and like basically the environmentalist is like having struggles with like his belief with God and like how it involves like the environment and stuff like that. And so like one of the major questions that got brought up in the movie, and something that stuck with me a lot, was like, does the church have a responsibility to protect God's creation, like in terms of like us destroying the environment? And there's all these like politicians and like big business, like big oil companies, like the CEOs and everything, that practice their religion and like practice Christianity and like I don't know, almost every religion, like God's creation, and they're really destroying it right in like through their own business.
Yeah.
Do you think the church has a responsibility to protect God's creation? And then, the second part of the question. And then do you think the church like itself, like the Pope, should even like speak out about like environmentalism and like actually trying to fix and like protect the environment more?
Yeah. Well, I think the Pope thing, like I just like don't have an opinion about, because like there's like so many like things that go behind, like there's so many controversies behind like, you know, Catholicism, like the Pope, stuff like that. And so for me, like, you know, the Pope, like at the end of the day, the Pope's like a person, you know? Like it's not like we treat the Pope like, yeah, he's like a you know, an above figure, but like at the end of the day, like he's a person, he has his own beliefs, right? And like in this day and age, like the Pope should be able to say what he like wants to, but at the same time, like we have to recognize that he's saying it out of his own beliefs, and like we have to differentiate between that and like whether he's speaking from like church, from like the book, the Catholic, like the Catholic Church, you know. But in general, though, I think that things are like we're predestined to like do something, or like things like I believe in predestination, right? And so for me, like when I see all these things happening, when I see like AI getting like bigger, like for me, like I think that's just like a normal way of like how life is happening. And so for me, like I live like life as in like I shouldn't be scared of anything. Like I see things where, hey, maybe this is wrong, I should stop it, and like I will stop it. But there are a lot of things where it's like, okay, this is like a natural process of life. Like for example, if I fail, it's like, okay, like I meant to fail in some things, right? Like we're not all going to succeed. But it's like how you take what you take away from that. And it's like even for like big oil companies, it's like they may do things wrong, right? And they may do things that people like won't agree with. But like that's like companies are gonna fail, you know. But it's like how they react from that, how they're able to like cater to their you know clients and stuff like that.
And like you said, you believe in predestination too, and it's like for you personally, how much do you believe like you can like how much of your daily life is just basically choice, and like how much do you feel like you can control like where you're gonna go in life, or even at all?
Well, I think that like everything is a choice essentially. Like we have the choice to do whatever we want. It's like in my personal belief, like I think that God knows like what's gonna happen, but at the end of the day, like He gives us the option. Like He gives like A or B, but He knows we're gonna choose A or we're gonna choose B. But like we're given the choice at the end of the day to do what we want. And so, like there's this whole argument where it's like it's like an excuse. Like people use predestination as an excuse to say, hey, we're not giving any choices, or like, you know, this is like Christianity isn't fair or whatever. But like at the end of the day, like you're given the choice, you know, like you can do what you want, but like God's gonna like no, like per se, like that's like what I.
It's almost like that quote, one offense finds his destiny on the road he takes to avoid it. Kung Fu Panda.
I'm kind of hip,
Dude. And like another interesting thing that the movie brought up too is like, do you think so? Like us like destroying our environment and everything like that, and like cutting down all these rainforests and stuff. Like basically by 2050, like the world's supposed to be like a mess, like a bunch of natural disasters. Everything's sort of like coming down on us. And like another interesting thing that the movie brought up was like that God is kind of like destroying the world. Like, 'cause he like in the Bible, like He's done it in the past, and like this is just another example. Like, are we predestined? Like, do we predestine ourselves to be destroyed by God's? Is that God's will for us to be destroyed by our own like negligence to His creation?
Well, the thing is like we aren't designed to like know like exactly what God like wants us to do. You know? Like we're not like the whole purpose of God being above us is that there are things that He knows that we don't. You know, like we don't like. For example, like if I believe in predestination, right? Like then God would have known that, like in the Bible, like Jesus comes down, like saves the earth, and He dies on the cross, and then he rises again, right? But like for me, a big question that I had is like, if God knew all that, then like, why is it such a big deal that like Jesus came down and like died? Because if God knew that He was gonna come back up, like it wouldn't have been a big deal. Like for example, like if I killed you, but I knew you're gonna like live, like rise again, like it wouldn't be a big, like I wouldn't be sacrificed per se. But for me, like there are things that I'm not gonna understand, right? But for that question specifically, like I felt like it was more just like the fact that He came down like as like, you know, a person, like died on the cross. It's like gods aren't supposed to do that. Gods aren't supposed to come to a human level and be like exposed to that kind of like, you know, like ridicule and stuff like that, you know? And so like that's like that answer to that question. But in general, it's like there are gonna be questions where I'm gonna be like, okay, like why is this happening? But like the whole purpose is that we're not supposed to know, as like we're just supposed to do what we think is right and what God tells us is right? And like for like the environment stuff, like we should fight to like protect the environment, protect animals, because like those were like gifts that the creator has given us, right? Like, and we should do our best to like protect all that. But if that is the way that the world's gonna end, or like that's the way that it's like predestined to end, like that's what I believe in, at least, right? If that's the way that's supposed to end, then yeah, it's gonna happen. But like for me, like I believe that the environment is worth saving, and like I mean most people believe that, right?
Yeah.
And so we should do our like best to do that. But if that's the way it's gonna end, then that's just how it is,
How much of like the Bible do you take as metaphorical, and how much do you take as literal? For example, do you believe that the rapture? I was thinking about this the other day. Do you believe that the rapture might be like some kind of alien takeover, maybe even AI? Like, do you think that it's gonna be a dragon and it's gonna be fire everywhere?
So like,
I think it's gonna be something different.
Like, there are a lot of things that you have to take as metaphorical, and like that's why Christianity as a religion is very hard to like enforce on other people, is because like, for example, like, even like the way the earth was created, God says like 7 days, right?
Right.
But if you like do any sort of like archaeological research, it's like there's no way it was made in 7 days, because like there's dinosaurs, there's like all these other things that were created millions of years ago, right? But if you take that in a metaphorical standpoint, like it makes sense, things came in a certain order, right? And like,
so you believe in the Big Bang then?
I wouldn't say the Big Bang, but like, just because like I honestly don't believe in the Big Bang at all, but like I believe like the world was created in a certain way that's kind of like that, where like things were like put on the earth,
Okay.
Like obviously, like I don't have a strong belief on how the earth was created, but I do know that like for us to be here breathing and like living and doing all these things, like
there's some divine intervention.
Yeah, like there's no way, like scientifically, like it's nearly impossible for the earth to be made the way it was, to where we can be on it and we can do all these things, right?
Right.
And for me, I believe there's some sort of divine intervention, and like for other people, they may believe in something different, like that's okay. But for me, like I choose to believe in this one way that it happened,
Did I ever tell you about like and I feel like I talked to you about it, but like how I was watching some like I think on Netflix with Neil deGrasse Tyson about how like the Big Bang like happened or whatever, and like how like the molecules like
I was gonna bring up Neil deGrasse Tyson,
like moving in space and then like coming together and like breaking apart evenly, and then one time apparently like the molecules came together and like it broke apart and like the equation wasn't equal, and like that sort of created like the Big Bang and like created something like honestly there's so long ago and like there's not, I feel like you can't really know for sure, but I think based on that science, like they even try to recreate it in a lab, and like they just like can't like get on computers and everything like that. I think nature and like how like math defines the entire universe is like a reason of God's existence just in itself.
Yeah. All that perfectness and that randomness has to be divine.
Like the fact that we're so consumed in like the idea of like how we came about, like the fact that we don't know, and it's like we're trying to find answers is like, for me, like that's like confirmation that we can't answer those kind of questions, and therefore there's some sort of divine intervention, or there's something above that happened to where like we came about,
So does that mean that everything that's beyond human comprehension is in a way divine?
Not necessarily.
Because there's a lot of stuff that was beyond human comprehension,
that we
but now we have figured out.
Okay.
But for me, it's like,
do you think those things that we can never figure out are those the divine things?
I would think so. But there are things like where we entertain the idea. For example, like aliens. Like there is no like proof that like aliens like exist anywhere, right? But like we like to think and we like to find like small things that say, hey, aliens exist, or like another universe, like alternate universes, right? Or like quantum theory in general, like you know how like split universe, like Rick and Morty, like like all these like things where like all these possibilities of like alternate universes. Like we don't have any evidence of all that. That's just all theory, right?
Right.
But like the world itself, like it's here. Like we are evidence that the world exists, and like scientifically, if you look at it, like the fact that there's this much oxygen, there's like the ozone layer, all this stuff, for like all that to exist, it's like we don't have answers to all those questions to how it came out, but it did come about in some form, and that's how we're here, and that's like something where because we haven't answered it, it's like there's got to be something.
One could look at life and just ask themselves, like, is life proof of God? Because like they say, life is random. Nobody knows how it came about.
Right.
So I don't know.
What do you think we'll have like answers eventually to like everything?
I don't think so. I always think there's gonna be, because it's human nature to question. Because we're gonna find new things to question at some point.
Like, do you think humans are like? So have you guys probably seen Interstellar, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think humans will ever be able to manipulate time and like space, kind of like how they did in that movie, or do you think that's like impossible and like beyond our comprehension, like divine?
Oh, it's been a while since I saw that movie.
I would say like.
What are you referencing?
Kind of like how Matthew McConaughey at the end was in like that little thing and like that little like
Oh,
weird,
and like the bookshelf, like
yeah,
fourth
like
dimension.
manipulating
thing?
gravity and like
Right.
there's
Well,
like
Well, Neil deGrasse Tyson did say that was like the one part that was kind of made up for the movie.
well okay, yeah. I guess like other things like about like I don't know going through black holes and like
supernatural stuff.
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know about that.
I would say like at least like for example like going back in time, I feel like that would already be happening, like in theory. You know, wouldn't if I was living right now, like, wouldn't I see like people or like wouldn't there be some sort of sign like that someone's coming back here?
Yeah,
like
it
something's
would have
happening.
already
You know?
happened.
Like, that's like one of the theories that exists where it's like,
Or we could have killed ourselves. Like I think humanity is gonna die like pretty soon.
We're gonna kill ourselves off.
Yeah.
so.
I don't know. I just feel like
there are a lot of people in this world. Like I'm not gonna lie. Like
yeah.
There
you know,
really
like
are.
Infinity War, like where Thanos like kills a half the population.
Dude, I just watched
It's
Infinity
like,
War last
yeah,
night.
I mean, obviously it's like a fucked up idea, but like at the end of the day, like there are a lot of people in this world, you know, and it's like we're not gonna stop growing. Like babies are still gonna be made. We're gonna live longer, you know. And there's gonna it's gonna come to a point where that like it's gonna be a capacity where we can't sustain life, or else like the rest of life will like die out, you know.
Yeah.
Infinity War was done because Thanos could have just made resources. But
Dude, I'm so hit.
Yeah.
he literally
Oh
could have
my
just
God.
made resources.
Yeah.
But
There's so many
that's what
flaws in
everybody
that
always
movie.
says.
I'm happy.
There are a lot of flaws. Well, I was like, eat this strawberry. We're out of time. So, thank you, David, for coming on the show.
Thank you, bro.
Thank you for coming on. Thank you, David.
for having me.
Thank you
Appreciate
so
it.
much. We had
A great time,
conversation. All right. So, to finish off, follow us on Instagram. Look up our SoundCloud, our YouTube, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. We'll probably be there.
We're trying to get them out.
We'll probably be there.
But actually, before we wrap up completely, do you have any goofs for the next person who comes on?
Anything interesting?
Yeah, anything you want to
think of
any
on
good
the
bets you
spot?
want to do?
If you don't, it's okay. But,
Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, I don't know what you guys have done, but
some savage shit.
Yeah, some stuff I regret.
We'll let you know if we've done it or not.
okay. I would say something. I don't want to physically hurt someone.
Oh, we love physically
Oh,
hurt.
go for it, dude.
Yeah.
You know, we could just throw somebody in the pond outside. We should do that. I don't know. Go for a walk. Who knows?
Yeah, I would say something of like some sort of like torture.
Some
As in,
form
like-
of some
Like
form
you
of
have to
torture.
like if it's like really
torture.
We should
if it's
just like
really-
waterboard somebody.
Yeah, tickle torture
Cam,
or like
would you be down
if
to
it's
get
like super
waterboarded?
cold, they have to go outside
Water
like, naked.
I feel like that's
some
kind of
shit
just like
that,
pointless, you know? Like,
Is it?
what am I getting waterboarded for?
Or like an
I don't
ice
know.
bath.
Just funny stuff.
Yeah, ice bath. Ice bath would be cool.
Put
Yeah,
someone
because
in
we
an
could
ice
get
But ice baths,
bathtubs right there.
ice
Yeah,
baths
sure.
are refreshing.
And at the end of the day, like the idea is to like loosen the person up, right? And
Yeah.
what better way to loosen someone up than put them in an ice bath, you know?
True.
Big facts.
Okay, ice bath it is then. I kind of like it.
All right.
We just go to 7-Eleven, get a bag of ice, put in there.
And you got a tub
Yeah.
right there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah, I like it.
All right. Ice baths.
Who's coming up next? Daniel
Yeah.
Mitchell or Carmichael's? Be ready.
Yeah. All right. This has been Mac,
Cam.
and we're peacing out.
Peace.
Thanks, everybody.